So today we're digging into one of the most not covered, but very interesting and alarming legal developments that we've seen recently. It's not about some Senate hearing. It's not about what Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton have done together, allegedly. It's not televised much, but it's about something a little quieter. This is the federal case against James Comey and the discovery or the revelation that a huge chunk of his grand jury transcript and testimony simply doesn't exist or is missing. We're talking about a 2-hour like black hole in the official record of the case, of the indictment, a hole that Attorney General Lindsey Halligan swore that she reviewed and relied on, even though the judge now overseeing her possible disqualification has confirmed those materials were never there to review. This isn't some crazy conspiracy theory. It's not some left-wing hoax or something like that. This is straight from the courtroom. It happened earlier in November, I believe November 13th, and this goes directly to the veracity and the questionable nature of the prosecution itself and the lead prosecutor, Lindsey Halligan herself. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck over there. Today we're talking about one of our favorite subjects, Lindsey Halligan, and this very troubling and likely failing prosecution of James Comey. This is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. But before we dive in, just a reminder, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this with whoever you think would be interested in learning more about what's going on here and the legal angle behind it. Brian, where do we dive in with this issue?
I've been in a lot of courtrooms in my career, Sean, and one thing you could tell is when a case is imploding. And this sounds like a complete implosion to me. So I got to get a few facts straight here. First of all, it was 2 hours and 19 minutes that are missing. Secondly, Lindsey Halligan, I refuse to refer to her as the acting U.S. attorney. Instead, I'd like to refer to her as the third runner-up because she was third runner-up to Miss Colorado. She has no experience in prosecution. She has no experience in the criminal justice system. She's never apparently represented anybody other than Donald Trump, who was accused of a crime. And she was appointed as the U.S. attorney. So the whole core of this, why did this hearing happen? And it wasn't just James Comey. It was also on behalf of Letitia James. It's because the argument's being made that the indictments were illegal, particularly important with respect to Comey, because the only person who presented the evidence to the grand jury was Lindsey Halligan herself.
And that's something I always point out. I always stop and say, just please pay attention to the absurdity of that. You have like the top prosecutor in that district going down there and doing trying to do a grand jury indictment herself.
An office that has like 100 lawyers or something like that. And by the way, Sean, it isn't just that it's the U.S. attorney himself or herself who would rarely present a case to the grand jury. And I want to explain that process in 1 second. But it's also someone who has zero experience.
That's
something that the judge in this case, which she's the judge herself, Judge Currie, is from South Carolina because she was brought into Virginia because the judges there are disqualified or they disqualify themselves because it's their job to appoint the U.S. attorney if the government fails to appoint a U.S. attorney and have it confirmed by the Senate within 120 days. I know we're getting into the weeds here, but all of this is super important. So let's chat for just 1 second, Sean, about what an indictment involves.
So an indictment is basically like establishing the bare minimum showing that there can be a case here that's brought. And you need what's called a grand jury that sort of operates in secret. So the target of the indictment doesn't know it's happening. And you just have to have a finding from the grand jury. And it's a pretty low threshold, right? We've said this a couple of times, grand jury can indict a ham sandwich or whatever, because that's how low the threshold is here. But apparently this took a really long time. We'll get into the sort of holes I think that are in this transcript. Do you want to jump in there, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, this is really important though, because what happened here, and I've got to continue to set the table for folks, is that what happened here is that the administration has acknowledged tacitly, meaning not, openly said it's true, but they've admitted tacitly that there is a problem with the potential appointment of Halligan, third runner-up. And it's because the 120 days had already run for another prosecutor who resigned over this whole Comey issue and quit because he wouldn't indict him. And so the argument is she wasn't the valid prosecutor at the time. She didn't have the authority. She couldn't present this, so the whole indictment would go away.
Right.
Very, very significant issue. But what the administration comes out and says is, look, we cured it. It doesn't really matter whether you validate her or not. It's because the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi herself, retroactively reviewed everything, including, and this is the quote in Pam Bondi's own sworn declaration under oath, including the quote unquote entire transcript of the grand jury proceedings. Problem, Shant?
There's a little bit of a problem. It's kind of hard to review something that is missing or does not exist. So there isn't a transcript of the entire proceeding. There's like, what did you say, 2 hours and 13 minutes or something?
19. 2 hours and 19 minutes
that are missing. And that's a big deal in the criminal, especially in the criminal law.
And a significant part of the transcripts missing, which I will read, includes jury deliberations. That's very important. Any questions, because in a grand jury, the grand jurors will ask questions of the prosecutor. And we also know, by the way, that they tried to get three charges against him indicted, and the grand jury turned down one of the three. That's very important. Like, we don't know why they turned down.
We don't know why they turned down. Usually this transcript includes, aside from the questions from the jurors, it would include, Halligan's responses, the deliberations, any additional argument or response to those deliberations, and the vote. All that is missing. Problem.
And I don't think the judge, who who's been on the bench for at least a quarter of a century, doesn't seem like she was going along with this, right?
Wait, what if Pam Bondi has a time machine and she went and she's she can appear in place?
Shant, that the government of the United States has a time machine?
Pam Bondi might. I don't know about the government, but Pam Bondi might. Maybe she went back and she witnessed the whole proceeding, and she's like, it's all good, guys. Trust me.
Can you find this out for me? Because there's some things that happened when I was in high school that I'd like to go back and correct.
Okay. Well, I was kidding. There isn't. You're going to have to live with those things, Brian. You're going to have all the rejection. So you got mocked.
Was the judge nonplussed by the lack of 2 hours and 19 minutes? No, apparently she wasn't. She said, how does the Attorney General of the United States say she's reviewed the grand jury material when they didn't exist? And apparently there were gasps in the courtroom during this hearing. But the prosecutor, undoubtedly slick on his feet and quick to answer, this is the assistant U.S. attorney, because now the administration's wised up to not let third runner up anywhere near a courtroom.
Yeah, they're going to keep Halligan inside an office somewhere. Probably they're not going to let her into a courtroom anymore.
He said, it's just a paperwork error. Yeah. It's form over substance, Judge. Yeah. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. They also said that it's just deliberations. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who's saying that she retroactively ratifies everything with her, I'm going to call it the Bondi time machine.
You know what I love about this story, Shant, is that the transcript abruptly ends at 4:28 p.m. And as someone like you who has been in courtrooms, most of our entire adult life, I know exactly why the court reporter stopped at 4:28 p.m. because that court reporter's day was done. And nobody had authorized overtime, and nobody had asked that court reporter, him or her, to stay. So as a result of that, they just stopped deliberating. And the reason it was important to keep going that night was because I believe the statute of limitations was about to run.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. They had to do it then. And then there's the famous message from Trump that he accidentally posted to Truth Social or whatever, where he thought it was a message to Pam Bondi saying, we need to hurry up, we're running out of time or whatever. But it's a problem, because the problems are Bondi swore under oath, under penalty of perjury, that she reviewed the grand jury materials, which we know didn't exist. The entirety of it did not exist. And you can't retroactively ratify something without reviewing the record. I mean, that's just, even that phrase, we were retroactively ratifying it. It's not a problem. So the Judge Currie, who's looking at this from South Carolina, she has a lot of skepticism, and it's going to be a big problem. This case is not, it's getting worse. And we've always said this, Brian, as, I learned this from Brian, but a lot of lawyers espouse this view that, good cases get better and bad cases get worse. And this is one of those bad cases that's just getting worse for the government. So stay tuned. It's an interesting issue, and, we'll keep up to date on this. A ruling against the DOJ here, by the way, and there's probably going to be a ruling, before Thanksgiving at this point.
That's what the judge said. That's right. Yeah. That's what the judge said.
And a ruling against the DOJ here would, I think, dismiss both indictments, the Letitia James one and the Comey one. And we'll see. And they can't re-indict Comey because the deadline there has passed. The statute of limitations has passed. I'm not sure with Letitia James they could try again, but I feel like they're going to fumble it again if they try. So keep you posted. Stay tuned. It's an interesting issue. This has been another installment of Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck over there. Remember, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share with us your comments, reach out to us directly. A lot of people have been doing that. We get calls and emails now, and it's always kind of nice to hear from people and talk about this stuff. If there's something you want us to cover, let us know. We'll take a look at it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.